Imagine this. You've been climbing the highest mountain of your life. You're almost there. One final stretch. Your fingers are reaching for the top. Victory, peace, everything you've worked for. It's just inches away. Then, suddenly, someone behind you slips. A friend, a family member, and instead of falling on their own, they grab your leg and pull you down with them. Just like that, you're both crashing back to the bottom. All your effort, erased. If it were you, what would you do? You see, this happens far more often than we realize. Not on mountains, but in life. At this chapter in your life, you're not here to carry other people's baggage. You're not a rescue boat for sinking souls who never learned to swim. And your peace is not up for trade, not for pity, and not for anyone's manipulation. And the truth is, some people will ask for things they never had the right to, requests that rob you of your peace, energy, and your time. And that kind of theft? It's personal. This video is not for playing nice. It's for telling the truth, the kind people around you are too polite or too selfish to admit. I am going to show you 4 demands you must stop accepting, because anything that disturbs your inner peace must go. So stay with me, because what you hear today might be the moment that finally flips the switch to stop tolerating what should have never been part of your life to begin with. One of the biggest traps? Being asked to carry weight that was never yours to bear. How many times have you nodded yes to something that, deep down, you knew wasn't your responsibility? Too many to count, right? And by the time you realize it, it's too late. You're already dragging a load someone else should have carried. And now you're stuck trying to keep it all together like it's your job. Most of these situations don't come with warning signs. They slip in quietly. A small favor here, a quick emergency there. Just this once, please, but before you know it, what started as kindness becomes a contract, an unspoken obligation. Suddenly, you're not helping anymore. You're holding up an entire world that was never yours to build. Let me ask you this. What happens when you keep patching a dam that's already cracked beyond repair? Eventually, the pressure breaks through, and you're the one left drowning in a flood that was never yours to hold back. That's what it feels like when people treat you like the barrier holding back their chaos. They come running, expecting you to plug every leak, to keep everything from collapsing. But here's the truth. That dam, it was already falling apart. You didn't break it. And it was never your job to hold it together. You're not the foundation for their failures. You're not the fix for their broken plans. And no, you're not their safety net, and you don't need to keep pretending to be, because what's on the line here isn't just your time. It's not just your energy. It's your calm, your health, your sense of self. It's your life. When someone hands you a burden that's not yours, then walks away expecting you to carry it quietly, and you do, because you care, because you don't want to look selfish, let me say this to you as clearly as I can. That is not kindness. That is manipulation. And if you keep calling it love, you're going to wear yourself out in the name of loyalty. You've given more than enough. You've built, sacrificed, loved, forgiven, and held others up when no one else would. So why are you still carrying things that never had your name on them?
You're not a nurse, but somehow you're expected to care for everyone like it's your obligation. No one ever asking how you're doing. And the moment you say no, or even hesitate, you become the villain in someone else's story. They paint you as cold, as difficult, as selfish. But where was their compassion when they dumped their chaos at your feet? Let's be real for a moment. Some people don't see you as person. They see you as a utility, like a power outlet they can plug into whenever their world goes dark. Not to ask how you're doing, but to take what they need, then leave once they're recharged. And that's not just careless, it's dehumanizing, because you're not a service. You're not a solution. You're a soul. And treating you like anything less? That's unacceptable. So how many more times will you let yourself be used like that? Let me say something that may hit hard, but it needs to be heard. This is not love. This is emotional abuse. And it doesn't matter if it's coming from your sibling, your closest friend, If someone is unloading their life onto your shoulders and calling it connection, that's not a relationship. That's a hostage situation with guilt as the weapon. You don't have to keep saying yes just because it's uncomfortable to say no. Tears, sweet words, guilt trips dressed up as affection, those are just tools to keep you compliant. That's when you must ask yourself loud and clear, why am I paying the price for someone else's decisions? This isn't about selfishness. It's about self-respect. And respect has to start with you. Because if you don't put up boundaries, no one else will. If you keep carrying things that don't belong to you, all you're doing is slowly disappearing, piece by piece, moment by moment, until there's nothing left of you but exhaustion. Life is short, and where you are now, you should be living in peace. You should be resting. You should be enjoying what you've worked for, not walking around with a fire extinguisher for other people's chaos. So let this be the wake-up call. If you feel like a prisoner in someone else's life, tied to expectations you never asked for, it's time to cut the rope. This isn't about turning your back on people in real need. This is about refusing to carry what never should have been yours in the first place. And hear me clearly, this is one of those moments that screams, don't do it. Drop the guilt. Put down the emotional debt that doesn't belong to you. Because what you ignore today, it'll weigh you down even more tomorrow. And if you can't think of one good reason why you're still carrying it, it's time to let go, because no one will protect your peace the way you can. And if this is already opening your eyes, drop a "ride on" in the comments right now and smash that like button. Now let's talk about something that cuts deeper than carrying those weights. When someone asks you to rewrite who you are, it starts small, a comment here, a suggestion there. Stop being so traditional. You're stuck in the past. Why do you still listen to that old music? You're too old to talk like that. At first it sounds harmless, but what they're really saying is, you're not enough, not like this. And that hits harder than any insult, because they're not criticizing a moment, they're questioning your identity. They're asking you to dim your light, to trade in everything that makes you you, your memories, your style, your voice, for the sake of fitting into their idea of what's acceptable, as if aging means becoming invisible, as if time lived is something to apologize for. But tell me this, why should you shrink just to fit in someone else's narrow lens of what makes sense? You've walked through decades of storms, stood through heartbreaks, climbed out of places no one even knows you've been, and now someone wants you to tone it all down? Number absolutely not. This isn't about updating your wardrobe or changing a playlist. This is about erasing your soul's fingerprint. They're not asking you to adjust. They're asking you to disappear, piece by piece, until you no longer recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror. But here's the truth. You are not a blank slate waiting to be redesigned. You are a masterpiece, painted in full, and no one, not even someone you love, has the right to repaint your story just because it doesn't match their decor. They say, lighten up. Stop being so traditional. You're stuck in the past. But what they don't see is that every so-called old habit of yours has roots, and those roots are tied to memories, to love, to survival. They weren't there when you made the hard choices, when you sacrificed parts of yourself just to give others a better chance. They weren't in the room when you stayed silent instead of lashing out, when you carried more than your share, just to keep things together. So no, they don't get to rewrite your script now. Because here's what they forget. You didn't come this far by being trendy. You came this far by being true. If you ever feel pressure to change who you are, just so others can feel more comfortable, ask yourself, at what cost? Because once you begin to betray yourself to meet someone else's approval, it doesn't stop. The changes keep coming. The apologies get longer. And slowly, your reflection fades. And that's a tragedy no one deserves. You've earned the right to live boldly, speak freely, and love what you love without explanation. So when someone says, move on, stop talking about the past, what they're really saying is,
Your story makes me uncomfortable. But your story? It's sacred, and it deserves to be honored, not edited. So hold on to your rituals, wear the clothes that feel like home, sing the songs that take you back to the moments that shaped you. Because what matters isn't whether they understand. What matters is that you remember who you are. You don't owe anyone a watered-down version of yourself. Not now, not ever. This isn't about rebellion, it's about respect. And that respect starts with how fiercely you protect your authenticity. So if someone asks you to change what defines you, to soften your truth, to mute your joy, look them in the eye and say, I've spent too many years becoming myself to start unbecoming now. Let's talk about one of the quietest traps people fall into, being asked to lend money. Unless it's a true emergency, the kind that knocks on your door with urgency, not entitlement, don't even entertain the thought. Imagine this, you're sitting on your porch, finally enjoying a rare moment of stillness, the kind of silence that feels earned. Then, a knock at the door, not loud, not aggressive, but you already know what it means. It's someone close, a relative, a friend, someone who rarely shows up unless they need something. They smile, maybe hug you, ask how you've been, but you can feel it. This isn't a visit, it's a transaction in disguise. And what they're really asking for isn't time, isn't love, it's money. They call it temporary, just a bridge, just a favor. But what they're building isn't a bridge, it's a tunnel, one that leads straight into your peace of mind. And the deeper you go, the harder it is to climb back out. What began as kindness slowly turns into a debt you didn't sign up for. Not just with your wallet, but with your heart, because what you gave in good faith becomes an open door for guilt, expectations, and quiet resentment. And by the time you realize the cost, you've paid far more than dollars. You've spent your serenity. Lending money at this stage of your life is like handing over the spare key to your sanity, hoping the person respects the boundary, knowing deep down they won't. And more often than not, they don't. And here's what hurts the most. When you give, you're not just risking your bank balance, you're handing over your emotional stability, your trust, and sometimes even the quiet joy you worked decades to earn. All for someone who may never look back and ask how you're doing, only when they can ask for more. This isn't selfishness, this is wisdom wrapped in self-respect, because what may seem noble in the moment can turn into chaos if life suddenly throws you a curveball, a health scare, an emergency of your own, and the money you gave away? Nowhere to be found. This isn't about closing your heart. It's about not opening your hands so wide that you're left empty and alone when you need help the most. Lending money, when it's not rooted in urgency and trust, is like leaving your door wide open and hoping the wind doesn't blow it all away. By the time you realize something's missing, it's already gone. You're not a bad person for saying no. You're a wise one for knowing when enough is enough. You don't owe anyone your savings if the cost is your peace. You don't need to go broke so someone else can stay comfortable. Your job was never to keep their lives together by falling apart yourself. And here's what many people never say out loud. Real emergencies? They're rare. But manipulative requests wrapped in emotion? Those show up far too often. And the worst part? Once the money's gone, so are they, and you're left staring at an empty account and an even emptier feeling, knowing you can't start over from zero like you used to. It's like driving through a mountain road with no rearview mirror. You can't see what you've lost until it's too far behind to fix. So stop and ask yourself, do they only show up when they need something? Because if that's the only time you hear from them, it's not love, it's dependence in disguise. The truth is, anyone who genuinely loves you would never put you in a position where you have to choose between your future and their convenience. If they do, they don't deserve your trust or your wallet.
And it's painful, isn't it? To realize that after a lifetime of hard work, of building, of giving, you still have to fight to justify your right to rest.
But here's the real truth. Anyone who doesn't value your boundaries doesn't deserve your money or your time. Learn to say enough. Don't be afraid to go against the pattern. And above all, don't be afraid to say no, because peace of mind isn't a bonus, it's a treasure, and protecting it might be the most righteous thing you ever do. Doing the easy thing, saying yes, can be the most damaging, but doing the right thing, drawing the line, can protect everything you've built. This is your moment. Not to keep giving it away to the next sad story with an open palm, but to ask yourself, are they thinking about your well-being the way you think about theirs? And if the answer is no, then you already know what to do. This isn't being cruel. This is being clear. And the good in your life only begins to bloom when you finally stop watering the weeds. Now let's talk about a different kind of demand, the one that doesn't come in the form of money or tasks, but in the quiet, manipulative expectation that you put someone else's feelings above your own. It often comes from the people you love most, a son, a daughter, a sibling, a lifelong friend. And it sounds like concern, it sounds like care, but deep down, it's control. Suddenly they say things like, "Why can't you just go along with what I'm asking?" It would mean a lot for me. Sounds familiar? It's subtle but dangerous because it sends a clear message. Your joy is a threat to my comfort. And that, right there, is the beginning of emotional erasure. Think about it. You've spent years building a life that finally feels like yours, only to be told that your choices, your happiness, your voice is somehow too much. And in trying to please them, you end up abandoning yourself. That's not love. That's emotional manipulation wearing a polite smile. You start shrinking your decisions, second-guessing your desires, softening your dreams, just to avoid upsetting someone else. But let me ask you this. When did their peace become more important than yours? This isn't about being cruel. It's about being clear. You can't keep setting yourself on fire just to keep others warm. That's not compassion. It's self-destruction. And what's worse, once you give up your peace to make someone else feel better, you teach them it's okay to ask again. The guilt creeps in, the pressure builds. If you loved me, you'd do this. If you don't, you'll hurt me. You're made to feel like the villain, just for choosing yourself. But here's the truth no one likes to say. You are not responsible for anyone else's emotional balance. You are not the regulator of their storms. You are not a sponge for their disappointment, and your life was never meant to orbit around other people's expectations. Let them feel what they need to feel, but don't let it shape your life. Because the moment you start playing the role of peacekeeper at the cost of your own soul, you lose the very thing that made you whole in the first place. Don't become a background character in your own story. Don't walk through the rest of your life apologizing for simply existing in a way that feels right to you. If they can't handle your truth, your choices, your voice, that's their journey, not yours. You've sacrificed enough. Now is the time to reclaim what's yours, your peace, your autonomy, your joy. Because here's the bottom line, you don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your sacrifice. And most importantly, you don't owe anyone the permission to decide how your life should feel. This isn't selfishness. This is the highest form of self-respect. Let that guide you forward. Don't shrink yourself just to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. Don't silence your needs to protect someone else's ego. You weren't made to live your life on someone else's terms. This is the chapter where you come first. Not because you're selfish, but because you've spent a lifetime putting others before you. It ends now. You're not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag, rescue plan, or silent supporter while your own dreams are left gathering dust. You've earned the right to say, "No, not this time." You've earned the right to stop bending for people who wouldn't lean for you, so if someone asks you to dim your light so they can shine, say no. If they ask you to carry their weight when your own shoulders are already sore, say no. If they demand your peace as a down payment for their approval, say no and don't flinch. You've sacrificed enough. Now is the moment to protect what matters most: your sanity, your space, your spirit. Stop rearranging your life like furniture just to make other people more comfortable. You weren't born to be a doormat in someone else's story. You were meant to live fully, without apology, without guilt, without needing permission. Every time you ignore your own needs just to keep the peace, a little piece of you disappears. And here's the truth no one tells you. Peace bought with self-abandonment isn't peace. It's quiet suffering, so don't fall for it. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your energy. And you definitely don't owe anyone a version of you that's easier to digest. If your boundaries make someone uncomfortable, they were never meant to be that close in the first place. This is your season of reclamation. Reclaim your time, reclaim your joy, reclaim the parts of you that have been dimmed, dismissed, or denied. Because here's what you need to know right now. You don't need to earn rest. You don't need to justify your no. You don't need to explain why your soul deserves peace. Let them call you difficult. Let them say you've changed. Good, you have. You've finally stopped asking for permission to be whole, so take up space. Speak up. Stand tall. And choose you, not out of rebellion, but out of reverence. If this is resonating with you, if you've felt the weight of carrying what was never yours, then I want you to do one thing right now. As your first act of release, drop it in the comments and write, "Today, I choose to put myself first." Say it. Claim it. Let it be your turning point. Like and share this video, because there are still too many people out there dragging burdens that were never meant for them. Let's help them set it down too.